TV3 Ghana, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Threads, and all the others that we don't know. Please go there. And we're streaming there live. We also do encourage you, always make sure you cash out with us. We all know the short code, *439#. But we're also telling you about DEWA 539 Chop Money. It's also one through the short code *446# that enables you to select option 2 to play DEWA 539 Chop Money. You also get to win 20 times your stake with Direct 1, 40 times your stake with Direct 2, 400 times your stake with Direct 3. Or just in case you want to have some customer inquiries undertaken for yourself, as you've been able to do, you can go to the site and we have dewa-nla.com. You get the latest update. But we also encourage you, make sure you do your PEMing. For those of you who very much are used to PEMing numbers, etc., you pick from the range of the numbers 1 to 39. It becomes an easy win for you. I know that for me, I love the DEWA 539 and the cash out. So we're grateful that you've joined us. Amoda Hamidu joining us from the US. We're grateful. I hope there are no gendarmes on the platform this morning. Meshak Anan Hamza Junior Maestro, thank you. Money Ni Money. I would also want to say good morning to Oscar Lee. And Oscar Lee has been giving us some great insights on many of the things that we do. And Sheikh Ali Napari, good morning, that you always tend to join us as well. We're grateful. I know many of you, please allow me to do I want to say a good morning to a group that is now coming up on social media, Bold to Defend. And Money Ni Money and Latif are very integral in that group as well. We're grateful for the great work you're doing for Mother Ghana. Now, please share. Let us know what you think. Let me just introduce, communicating for the government of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Well, I have the distinguished entrepreneur, politician, Eric Amwakuchum. Good morning to you, Eric.
Good morning, Roland.
And then also energy consultant, currently chair for the Political Affairs Committee of the CPP, the Latter-day Saint Party of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the Osajefo. Lawyer Kwame Jantwa. Which other names do you have, like Kwame Jantwa, that we don't know? The ones that are known to you by family and friends.
My full name is Papa Odikru Kwame Iduchum Jantwa.
Papa Odikru
Kwame Iduchum Jantwa.
Kwame Iduchum Jantwa.
Yeah.
Is this your formal name or the alias?
That's the name that my father gave me.
Name that your father.
But
Which one do you write?
Kwame Jantwa.
That's what's on your Ghana card?
It's easy, yes.
Do you have it on any other public document?
Yes. So my birth certificate.
Okay, great. Okay, please, if it changes, maybe you are using two IDs, let us know so that we can...
Mischief.
Oh, no.
Propaganda.
Let me ask a question.
Doctor, let me introduce
Okay.
Dr. Sharif. Dr. Sharif Khalid.
Yeah.
Khalid.
Yeah.
Your last name is Khalid.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Thank you for joining us as well.
Good to see you again. Yeah.
It's your second time I've seen you, right?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
third? Nice meeting you.
So. Yeah.
And then, but you said you wanted to say something, sir.
You know, I listened to Honorable Ayariga, the comment he made.
Arise Ghana.
MP. And he indicated that they want to go on the march because they want to tell the soldiers that we don't want to go. Where does that come from? Where does that come from?
You thought it was needless?
It was needless. The fact that there's a flavor of coups within West Africa, I don't think we want to get into that position.
Okay. So we shouldn't be funning
I've been in coups. It's not a beautiful sight.
I've lived in the barracks when, you know, we've had
It's not a beautiful sight. We shouldn't instigate. The youth have never seen coups before.
Yeah.
So they think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's not a good thing.
When you're a small boy in the barracks,
Okay.
your father's friends are picked up.
Politicians should be very careful how they talk.
Yeah. All right, let's see how it goes. Please share and let us have a discussion. But yesterday we had a COP joining the committee that is investigating the leak tape. And that leak tape, now we know, was recorded by a former Northern Regional Chair of the governing party, Bugri Nabu, recorded that. Now, we also do know that in that leak tape was COP Alex Mensah, who has now confirmed to the committee. But the social media as well as the public perception and the commentary is about his brazen posture and seem to be indicating that there's politicization of our security services. But this time we're talking about the Ghana Police Service and how nonchalant and brazen he is about it. Is this something that we need to be worried about? Let's take an insert from what happened before the committee when he appeared before it, and then we'll come back and discuss this. Politicization of the police service, should we be concerned?
COP George Alex Mensah indicated that even though he could recognize parts of his voice on the leaked tape, the tape had been doctored and parts of the tape played were edited.
Mr. Chair, what I admit as correct is that I had a meeting with Mr. Bugri Nabu, but we didn't have any plan to remove the IGP because I don't remove IGP and I don't appoint IGP. The audio that I listened here today is edited version of the conversations that we had. And because of that, wholly, this audio that we listened is not genuine.
He also told the committee that on authority, he was unhappy, and many senior police officers are unhappy with the way the current IGP, Dr. George Akuffo Dampare, is leading the police service, and he put it on record that he's not managing the police service well.
I will not deny that fact today, tomorrow, or the next day. I will make that statement again, that the current Inspector General of Police is not managing the police service well. It's something I will not run away from. I will say it everywhere, anywhere that I go. And you can do your own investigations, call police officers underground, and find out from them.
Duke Mensa Opoku, TV3 News, Parliament House, Accra.
Now let's begin the discussions and the concerns that have been raised. Mr. Makuchun, did you monitor and, well, perhaps even, did you even monitor the post comments from members of the public sectionally? And what do you make of it?
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity once again. Good morning to my colleagues here. Doctor, I'm meeting for the first time. Good to meet you. Good morning to you. And of course to the viewers of TV3 this morning. Interestingly, I think that when I got the topic for discussion, I was wondering exactly what we're being invited to discuss. Because as we speak, I think that Parliament is still, the committee set is still investigating the matters to ascertain or come to the bottom of the issues and find out what really transpired. There's been some denials as to if even the tape itself was authentic. Some also have indicated that they actually recorded the tape. But then if you are looking into the substance of the issues, I feel that, well, I mean, we have to look at it from a certain context. This IGP was appointed by the president. And per our constitution, the president is the only person that has the prerogative to appoint and disappoint. And so persons that find themselves in a private conversation somewhere, and I always use this word as self-aggrandizement, making them feel like more important than they really are, cannot really affect the change of an IGP. That's my view, to be honest with you. And I think that whilst we're even having these conversations, really we need to delve into the issue of capacity. That if somebody even goes to have a conversation somewhere, or a group of persons have a conversation somewhere, are they able to actually effect that particular change? And it's on record that I think the last time I was here when this matter came up, it was on public record that even some of the conversation that had been
Taking place.
and even in the tape itself, there was an admission that people or persons who felt like that about the current IGP had even found their way to the presidency to try and effect that particular change. And the president says that he's happy with the work of the IGP. So as far as I was concerned, if I'm being, maybe I'm being too simplistic on this issue, as far as I'm concerned, that actually, I mean,
it's a non-issue.
It's a non-issue. But of course, I mean, when these things happen, especially when we are talking about a key component of our security apparatus, and if certain instances like that happen and there's maybe a seeming politicization or partisanship within the police service, of course, then it has to be investigated, it has to come to the public domain, and when we need to find ways of making sure that these things does not fester and affect the independence or even the professional nature of the police service. We can also play ostrich, some of the things that, you use the word brazen, but some of the things that we have heard are things that probably have been also in the public domain in the grapevine for a very long time. It's not just a police service. Everywhere you go, there's this whole, if you like, a certain
siege of politicization.
Siege of politicization where persons within those public sector institutions themselves tag each other as MPP and NDC, right? And I feel that, again, there has to be some personal responsibility for people who find themselves in public sector institutions to rise above this partisanship. Because at the end of the day, regardless of what you do, these persons would have a vote, but that does not have to play a role in terms of who gets promoted, who gets opportunities and all of those things. I think that we need to be able to devolve the whole concept of I'm aligned to a political party and I'm in a public sector institution to provide a particular service or play a particular role. You know, so honestly, I was struggling to
look at the merits
to understand exactly what even
of the topic.
As we speak, even when it comes to the issue of coming to the realization of if this tape itself is authentic. I don't even know if the parliamentary committee is actually even the right place for that to happen, because then now you need forensic experts and all sorts of things. I mean, today, I don't know what powers they are clothed with. I think that, I mean, the Act says it, but can they go all the way to the bottom to actually authenticate the tape to start with?
You have a technical person on the committee.
I agree, but the point is that...
So they can.
After that, then what's next? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, and I feel that there's also a certain PR component, and we have to be very careful not to also bring certain things out that would make the public perception about the police service also go down. Because in recent times, you know, I honestly feel that the public perception is actually rising to a certain degree, especially when this new IGP took over. But again, these are things that we can find better ways of actually dealing with. I mean, I didn't even know if some of these things should be held in camera to start with, you know, because if someone is saying that, is accusing the IGP of, for example, not superintending over the police service, and I mean, it's not something that, for me, I think that you should allow somebody to say that.
Well, the tape leaked publicly.
I understand, but that is totally different. But you don't compound the issues by listening to these things in the public domain, because it's a key component of our security apparatus. But again, of course, I am not a repository of all the knowledge in the world. I feel that even if they want to do so, some of these things probably can be held in camera, especially when it comes to details around the police hierarchy and all of those, because these are key persons within the structure, right? And you don't expose these persons to this whole public display, as far as I'm concerned. But by and large, I think that, I mean, the committee is also clothed with some powers to be able to probably get to the bottom of the matter. But the police service itself, to be honest with you, also maybe would have to do some introspection, you know. And there's nothing wrong with, you know, going back and really looking at the structure itself and how people within the service feel that maybe when it comes to issues to do with promotions and all that, it has to be meritorious and all that. You can do that. You can analyze the issues. You can come to the point where what are the best practices? What happens in other jurisdictions? You know what I'm saying? So that it would be open, fair, and transparent. So that the institution itself will now be almost immune to either the political influences. You know what I'm saying? Because then they would have an ironclad structure that everybody, once you enter the police today, you know that these are the things that I would have to do. These are the indices that would be used to either promote me or make me remain here and all that. So it's very...
But these are all, I think, stated within the...
I understand. But the point is that if you listen to some of the commentary, I think that today is 2023, you know what I'm saying? So if some of these protocols have existed over a certain period, there's nothing wrong with actually
continuing them,
like changing them or finding new ways in terms of best practice to deal with some of these things. But for me, I think that we need to be very careful when we expose the security apparatuses to
the public and the scrutiny.
Yes.
Dr. Khalid, is the question not about a senior high-ranking officer of the police service, one of the crucial security institutions of Ghana, having this perception and then this brazen public posture that also tends to send negative signals to the rank and file within the current structure? Is that not it? And then also for posterity, I mean, just creating a very bad example. Well, it's not that nobody thinks that the services are not politicized.
Well, I think a very bad precedent is being set here. You have a very high-ranking officer, a potential IGP, as you'd see, or Inspector General of Police, who sits before or who is engaged in a leaked tape where he makes very damning comment and undermining comments of a sitting IGP who is a superior. So even if you look at the command structure system of our services and intelligence services and what have you, some disciplinary measures ought to even start to roll in before the parliamentary inquiry. But yesterday was a spectacle to watch as well, because it's as though Parliament gave him the platform to reiterate and be more brazen and bold about what he said. And I thought that was very dangerous.
You think it was worrying?
Worrying, not just worrying, very dangerous. Very, very dangerous.
Why?
Right. I mean, we have a certain IGP. And when we say an IGP, an Inspector General of Police, right? Never in the history of this country would you have had such an issue happening, right? Within the high ranks. So what's fundamentally going wrong within the service? And I don't know what actually this parliamentary inquiry and watching the engagements, and more so I was very displeased with the chair, with most of the leading questions that were being done and the enabling questioning that allowed the gentleman to embolden most of the very dangerous statements that he made. I mean, I'm not even looking at the IGP as an individual. I'm looking at the IGP as an institution. IGPs would come and go. But if we start the politicization of such issues, look, as my brother said, let's not play ostrich. These things happen. Police officers, senior police officers have WhatsApp pages of NDC, MPP. We can't sit here and pretend that that's not happening.
We don't have to play ostrich.
Yeah, even high-ranking military officers.
Where does it become dangerous?
That's for you to answer. I don't know. I'm not in the intelligence services, and I'm not in the services, so I don't know about, because these are very sensitive issues, and these are matters of security. Right. But I always tend to say something like, this is a gentleman who was happy to say, okay, well, I am MPP, or I'm a sympathizer of the MPP. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that if we are accountable to our partisanship and yet be professional. But in this country, we tend not to be. Right? People like to be very covert about where they belong, yet when they are given professional roles, then they tend to be partisan internally. And that is what our problem is. And this has been happening. But the point is, the height of this is happening within the current dispensation. Why is that? Why are we all getting very partisan with all of these things? Gone are the days where, yes, we could even suspect that Mr. A was MPP or Mr. B was MPP, but we didn't bring that into our professional cycles within this way. But the very middle class that was very vociferous, right, in the run-up to 2012, 2016, where are these voices? Has the country gone under siege? But it was these very voices that made it look like professionals were being partisan. And they brought this partisan discussion right? There's a difference between being partisan and political. And they brought this partisan discussion into the heart, right, of our professional bodies, including the Bank of Ghana. When the shouts of Wempa must go and all of that became partisan. Back in the day, issues of the central bank were kept in secrecy, in quotes, right? Their professional life and what they did,
resigned, yes.
yet were not brought to the public domain. But it took that breed of partisanship to bring all of this into the fray, and it's getting murkier and murkier.
How bad is that?
Very bad.
For posterity?
Well, for posterity, what it means is that every government would come with its pack of people and go with them. That's what we're doing. There's going to be institutional memory, there will not be continuity, and the likes of that.
What is happening?
Yes, but it's getting worse. Let's see, I think you look at what happened. It's this is a very senior officer, as you could see on screen. And he even comes there with a psychological warfare. That's how I interpret it, you know. An Italian mafia kind of look with Don Corleone trying to sort of say, okay, well, and he uses the word mafia.
Godfather.
Yeah, he uses the word mafia.
In the tape.
Right, in the tape, and in there as well, he still emphasized that. So I think he lives in, he has an architectural view of a certain setup of the police service that he thought if I was IGP.
That's how it should run.
That's how it should run. And that is not happening, and he feels agitated, and he's, you know, throwing all of these things into a very respectable institution. Right, mind you, as I said, I'm not looking at the IGP as an individual, I'm looking at the IGP as an institution. But we ask ourselves another fundamental question. How many commissioners do we have sitting at the head office? Right? If commissioners are disgruntled, what is it that should be done? You know, in other jurisdictions or setups, you would have that maybe, okay, some are probably being made ambassadors, they are being seconded to international organizations and all of that. Because when you have senior ranking officers all clocked in one place, there's a potential that there could be tensions. And that is very revealing in what he says. But then again, as I said, looking at the partisanship dimension and all of that, I do not have any issues with how we set up our intelligence services. But I made this fundamentally clear, that if you look at our national security architecture today, right, there could be a justification to it. The Dankwa Institute became an ideological ground for training intelligence officers and shoehorning them to very senior roles in the intelligence services such as the BNI and the national security. So if senior officers sit back and they watch this happening, they see it as an endorsement, or they could interpret it as an endorsement of partisanship and think that, okay, this is the way to go.
And that is okay.
It is okay.
No, but anyway, that's fine.
Right. No, I'm not saying that I'm not doubting the competence of whoever is there, but it is about the psychology and the kind of politics and partisanship we play. So if you have that, and they seem to be that sort of DI capture within our intelligence services, you can have a senior officer. He's not a stupid man. He knows what he's doing. I mean, 31 years in service, rising through the ranks all the way to being a commissioner of police. Right. But again, I think I have a friendly advice for the IGP. Also, because, you see, when you have a setup, I can understand he tends to be very public friendly, which is okay. But, you see, when you have high-ranking officers in what he's exuding before the Parliamentary Commission, you would see an IG who tries to be overly friendly and try to exhibit a certain level of humility that is not reflective of his uniform.
I don't understand.
I'm coming to that.
The police is supposed to be a friend of
the
public.
of the year, but you don't go in
It's
your...
not military.
I'm coming in. Could you give me... But you don't go in with your honors and all your uniform, kneeling before people in public, right? When you do that, you and I as civilians, we appreciate it, we laud him as humble, right? But these services still have a very conservative mindset and very regimented, right? His subordinates might have a certain interpretation to it, and that could usurp his powers. And I think that is something he needs to watch carefully.
I get your point where you're going. But Dr. Jantua.
Lawyer.
Okay, lawyer Jantua.
Not a doctor, please.
Not a doctor. Now,
You and your mischief.
at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong if you're born in a family that is supposed to be pro-Rawlings, NDC or UP tradition, pro-Nkrumah, etc. Because we all live as one people. I mean, you can be born as a Protestant, somebody who goes to Pentecost, Catholic. You all meet, you do, or you're a lodge member, etc. These are some of the cohesive forces in society that tend to bind us together. The thing is about the public actions we take for the good of those institutions and for the public good. Have we swayed from those values which initially were there? For example, many people in Nkrumah's government who came from all facets of our society, different parts of the country, and they still loved Nkrumah, the CPP. And is it that there was a point in our history that we changed the psyche and now it's become more consolidated than before? And that's what we're seeing,
Good morning to my fellow panelists. Good morning to our viewers. It's a very difficult question to answer. A very, very difficult question to answer. Because when you look at the advent of the coups in this country, at what point did we shift from some of the things that brought us together, that has now created this kind of scenery that makes it difficult to penetrate? I tend to feel that we have allowed, can I say, artificial, we've allowed artificial rivalry between us to create a certain scenario that really isn't true. Because if you go into the background of relationships, NDC, MPP, they eat together. Politicians from different parties, they are good friends. Sir John, who was his good friend?
General Mosquito.
But then when they come out into the public domain, what do you see? They're at each other's necks. And that is the hypocrisy of the kind of politics that we play in this country. And as I keep saying, and I'll continue saying it, that President Akufo-Addo is one man who could have changed some of these perceptions that we have. Unfortunately, it's dug deep. Look, when you have a situation where a party comes into power and clears everybody of the other party in public institutions, what are you trying to tell us? You have invested in people.
Training.
You've taken them for training. You've taken them X. You've done this. You spend taxpayers' money. But then new party comes in and we don't need you anymore. That institutional repository that they have, you're now coming to train new people. I don't understand it. It makes it difficult for me because go to other countries. We always like to use the developed world as an example.
US, UK.
US and all those people.
You
find somebody who says, I am a Democrat. He will tell you in your face. But the fact that he's a Democrat does not stop government from appointing me into a certain position.
And they don't change his values.
He wants to tell you, I'm a proud Democrat. As I keep telling people, I'm genetically CPP. Genetically CPP. I was born into it. The fact that I'm genetically CPP doesn't mean that if I can handle something in the MPP as an MPP government, when they give me a position, I should say I would take it. If I know I can do it. I mean, just recently, I've been called back onto the NDPC with regards to the human capital development strategy. Should I say, oh, it's an MPP government, so I won't go? If I have the capacity to do it, and the knowledge, why don't I?
And the experience.
And I've been there before. So should I say that because they are MPP people, I won't go? It would be wrong of me if I have the capacity to help the nation. And that's one of the challenges we have. We haven't brought the nation first. We've rather brought our individual interest first, individual parties first before the country. And so you get this kind of situation. But I ask the question, what is the terms of reference of the committee in Parliament? What are the terms of reference? Because remember, this particular committee interviews that are going on has got nothing to do with the police service.
You're supposed to authenticate the tape and then...
Authenticate the tape and see
I
whether...
think hour of 5, and then lastly also to advise, recommend.
But it's got nothing to do with how the police service is run. It's the COP who brought it in. And unfortunately, because I remember Atachia indicating to him that this is not about the police service, that we can talk about another day. And then it shifts the situation. But then, if there is a challenge within the police service, we have, what is the police management team called?
Police Council.
The Police Council. Are the Police Council aware?
There's also a management board as well.
Yeah.
Are they aware of these challenges? Is that not the best place to place these types of infractions, if there are those types of infractions? But then the question is asked, if this particular, the terms of reference is to find out what happened, what's the next point?
You mean after?
After, when it goes to...
The same point
when
that
it goes
Eric
to,
is raising.
when it goes to Parliament, what happens after? If it needs to go to court, somebody has to take it. Who will do that? What kind of remedies are we looking for with this committee? What kind of remedies? Is it just to expose that, oh, this one said that, this one said that, and then the case dies? Is that what it is for? So sometimes you ask yourself, what's the use of such a committee? Somebody says something. Another person says something else. Somebody said what he said was true, what he said wasn't true. If you feel there is a case in there, take it to court. Simple.
So you're saying by this time it should be interdicted or should be actions
Whatever
taken?
the case is, we want the truth. I'm not sure this particular committee will bring out the truth. How? Tell me how.
Well, now we're getting to know that apparently...
The gentleman who is being interviewed said half the things the chief came to say were lies.
That's Bugiri now.
Yes. He said other things he said were lies. He's even saying that the tape was doctored. He's even saying that there's another tape. So how do you get to the bottom of it? So let's see where to end up. For me, I don't think it will end up anywhere. Because if there is not, after this committee gives its recommendations or its verdict, what happens after that? Is it recommended to the Attorney General to take it up? And if will the Attorney General take it up? Is that what it is? Or that is it's the Attorney General's responsibility to make sure that the results of this committee meeting, if it is found that there are guilty personalities in there, then he takes it up and takes it to court. Will he do it? So let's see. But really, the architecture of our politics has to change. It has to. The partisanship has seeped in too deep and is affecting too many things. Like Eric will come and sit here. He will say something just because he's MPP. Even if he's saying is true, I, as if you won't agree with him. Because I feel if I agree with him, it's giving him ambience. No! I should be able to agree that, Eric, what you're saying is true. But do we do it? I mean, when we have these political discussions,
Practically.
do we do it? We don't. Because we feel the people sitting out there watching us, our parties watching us, will question us. But you, Mr. Eric Susan, said this. Why did you agree with him? Why didn't you oppose him? But maybe what he's saying is true. We have to find a way of sanitizing the partisanship that has seeped into every nook and cranny in this country. We've got to find a way. And for me, it's got to do with leadership. It's got to do with leadership.
Where do we bring the change? Because right now, we know that, we've always known that, I mean, individuals will align, etc., in these public institutions. But the examples we're setting with the individuals making these public confirmations also mean that in future, somebody can choose to be brazen and say, I mean, I'm for this, and so it's my time. Whilst we have to let the institutions be strong and work, just like Obama came to advise us during his visit in the Mills administration.
So, I mean, you need a critical mass of certain kind of people in politics, a critical mass.
To effect the change.
To effect the change. Have you even taken time to read some of the commentary from some of the people who join the social media?
The viewers.
The viewers and the kind of stuff that they write about.
Very partisan.
Very partisan. And almost some of them are actually extremely insulting, you know. But as far as they're concerned, I mean, some of them are even writing these things to catch the eye of whatever political party that they're part of and all of those things. I mean, if we're saying that we're doing a democracy and I prefer an opinion and you disagree, you can also disagree and point out or prefer your own opinion. But it doesn't have to be insulting. I can't sit here and insult my colleagues here. I mean, Kwame is my senior. I mean, maybe we are contemporaries, but I can't insult him just because I disagree with him or say that whatever he's saying makes no sense. So we need to also appreciate something. And he said something about the fact that even on the outside, politicians actually mingle. They're
friends.
They're friends. I mean, I remember, I don't want to mention his name. My son used to play football at the Lizzie Sports Complex.
East Legon.
East Legon, right? And one of the, okay, there's something wrong, Sam George, right? His son also plays there. So we are playing football, and we are standing there.
And you're interacting.
And we're interacting.
As political enemies in the public.
No, but it's not even as enemies.
As political enemies in the public,
so,
but friends.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that. So
in the private.
You would find yourself in situations where you actually even are connected. People are connected by going to school, being the same dormitory, roommates, all of those things. So it is not a war. One of the other things that honestly is also like important is even the Constitution itself. And we've had this conversation about a constitutional review and all of those things, and nobody really pays attention. I remember when I was a
Did you
policy.
say we don't need it?
No, when I was a policy analyst at the IEA, I don't know if Kwame, you were
Read the CRC report.
Kwame, were you on the IEA committee on the winner takes all? No, I think it was Bernard Mona and a few of the other guys, Atik and all of those things. And I remember very well that even the general secretaries at the time, I think Isidun Ketiano would be asked to come to the IEA platform to discuss some of these things. And what's interesting is that when you're in opposition, the winner takes all concept is actually a very laudable proposition. Now, once you come into government, then all of a sudden, it's not like a laudable proposition anymore. And we have to be very candid with ourselves. For example, there's one thing that the president was pushing, which was the election of MMDCs and DCs.
He wasn't committed to it.
No, don't say that. The president was extremely
in
committed.
opposition. He was.
No. But we went through a process where, at the point, we thought that we even had some kind of consensus with our brothers in the NDC. It turned out that later they didn't even want it. But you know what is interesting? And I'll say this. Even what is interesting is that at a point there was a certain internal resistance within the party.
MPP.
But when you want to appoint MCs and DCs, they are supposed to be almost some kind of reward for people, persons. But in the bigger scheme of things, where, do you understand what I'm saying? In the bigger scheme of things where you have people, if you're saying that we're even doing best practice, where the democracy should actually resonate at the local level. We don't want to do that. You understand? So it's all about an orientation where we feel that, listen, we are having a conversation around nation building, Ghana. You know, I'm MPP. You can't take that away from me. It's in my blood. It's blue. You understand what I'm saying? But the reality on the ground is that once we come to this kind of platforms and these conversations, then we have to rise above the partisanship, right? And have dispassionate conversation. We can disagree in terms of the direction and what needs to be done and how to execute some of these things. But in reality, if we're all, striving towards a certain direction, it shouldn't be that acrimonious. But then back to the issue to do even with the public sector and all of those things, we have to also be honest and sometimes cut the politicians a bit of slack. So some of these persons within the public sector institutions think that it's also an opportunity to
cash in
or have one over the other. You understand? And I'm being honest. You enter into an institution, and the very time that you sit down, people will come and tell you that I am MPP, the other person is NDC, another person will come and tell you that I'm NDC, this person, and it's there. right? So we have to be able to be certain in our minds exactly what we want to do as a country when it comes to these things.
Mr. Khalid, this is democracy. How do we make sure? Now, I know that there are people, I have friends, and I've practiced media for well over all these years. I have friends who are in NDC. They haven't worked since 2017.
Yeah.
And so they expect, some of them left their green card citizenship, well, those who had citizenship still kept it, but they left their green card, came to say they are sacrificing for their party and then government. We're doing winner takes all. And when they, let's say there's a change in government or there's no, they would want. And how do we make sure we realign this?
I don't think...
we've been trying since 1992.
Yeah, no, I don't think we've been trying since 1990. If you look at the politics of 1992, the likes of Tarzan, Rokurobe, was serving as an energy advisor, sitting at the energy ministry of an NDC government for a very long time.
But Kufuor also did great.
Yeah, no, but Kufuor was NDC technically.
What are you talking about?
No, when you get me. So if you want to talk about PNDC, because he was a minister under that before. So if you're talking about,
but he had Malamisa, someone like he allowed Indum to contest.
No, you see, Roland, don't mix these things. You know what I'm talking about. Malanisa and all of that was a coalition that led to that, right? But I'm mentioning examples that allowed, right, for people to bring in persons of expertise. And we all know what Tarzan is made of as far as his DNA of quality is concerned. And he just was a man serving in the NDC government or administration. But today, even to be a headmaster of a second cycle institution, you have to either have evidence of a card-bearing member of a certain political party, or that is degenerating. I think that we have to start to break these things down to know where they started from, right, where they have been manifesting themselves.
It cannot be true that, I mean, this issue of partisanship started under...
No, I'm not saying it is, Eric. Can you just allow me? Yeah, but... No, because I'm coming to... No.
Like a host of examples.
When you get, when the chance comes, but I'm not on a back and forth. I'm just trying to lay the...
I just wanted...
Yeah, but that's why, because Roland was thinking, he was mentioning examples of Malanisa and the likes, which were not fit for purpose.
And I know Indum very well. The Kufuor administration and the party decided not to fill the candidate. Because if they filled a candidate, their candidate will win.
No, but where did that was an arrangement. So I'm just talking about inviting.
But he was a minister.
Right. It also shows a certain commitment.
Roland, they are not saying. This is how we mix these things and they degenerate. So we become part of the problem. Right. So you go to Parliament.
I'm trying to understand. Are you saying
please go ahead.
Are you trying to say the intention of what Kufuor did was wrong? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying it was wrong.
No, I'm saying
he's saying
these are examples. These are examples.
I'm giving examples of how governments bring in
the big objective of making sure we don't have all takes all, winner takes all.
Yeah. His examples are supposed to be the best ones, but these other ones are not.
No, well, that's for your interpretation, which I quite respect.
Those examples.
Yeah, so
I knew Indum very well, and I knew that. Yeah, you go ahead.
Yeah, but you go to Parliament today, right? Parliament is a classic example. You know, I think my brother was alluding to the fact that if we probably, I don't know if my interpretation of what you were saying was right, that if we probably voted MMDCs, things might be partisan. I don't think so, because you look at the current parliament, which is more close to like a hang parliament, and how partisanship is still playing out, to the extent that I had the pain of listening to a deputy speaker who has served for a very long time in parliament, going after his backbench, saying that the backbench is trying to portray that the backbench has an anathema view to what they had in trying to whip their system in place. And I think that was very wrong, because the backbench should be praised for actually manifesting issues of accountability when it comes to that. But if you are sort of cheating your backbench, giving your experience as a senior member of the party within an internal mechanism and an institution such as Parliament, it tells you where these things manifest in a reflection of our national psyche when it comes to partisanship. So if we sit here, we can pretend as much as we can, cherry pick examples as much as we can. But at the end of the day, because if you look at, I think that we often say that at the apex, we are friends, we talk along. I think it is the over-excessiveness of the patronage of our comfort as middle class and as elite politicians that is entrenching these issues. At the grassroots level, they sit under trees, make their own noise, eat together and do whatever they want to do, right? But our excessive luxury that ought to be sponsored by a certain partisan interest is what is, entrenching these issues, which we all do at the cost and expense of majority of the downtrodden. And I think we have to begin to shape that until we're able to do that, we'll sit here every day, pat ourselves at the back. I think the only time we have bipartisan views is when we have personal interests that sponsors that excessive lifestyle I am talking about. And yeah, we shouldn't pretend about it. It's happening.
You recall to the privileges.
Yeah, it's happening. I don't want to be called to the privilege. I haven't referred to Parliament, actually, because I'm talking about you and I and everyone else, including everyone. So let's try as much as possible. At the apex, if we can reflect that, then that can go a long way, because they're looking up to us, right? You go for I've been on political campaign trails, midnight, 2 a.m., people come out barefooted, waving at Land Cruisers that drive past. It tells you the inspiration they drive from the apex. So if we're not getting it right, they can't get it right.
Okay.
They even get it better than us.
So for example, Lawyer Kakri Samoa, before you says that, I don't see party politics as being the cause of the difficulties you and your panelists have identified. It's rather intolerance. Everybody is unique, and we accommodate everyone in order to live as a community. And so we must learn to tolerate each other, and all will be well.
But Roland, one last point. One last point. I think that we should be overt about our partisanship. When you hide, there's nothing wrong with being partisan, right? Central bank governors and Federal Reserve chairs would say, I'm Democrat, I'm Republican, yet they are under a Republican government or what have you. So if we're able to do this, there's certain accountability to what we do. Like I encourage my other professionals. I'm an associate professor. I sit on national TV. I wear 2 hats. I say, okay, well, I do this, but I belong to the NDC. Then you judge the accountability of my engagement based on that, rather than us always hiding under the cloak.
At the end of the day, it has to take the commitment of the establishment, the party of the day, to say that I want to be inclusive. And that is why I cite the period of the Kufuor administration, when there was the commitment. It's the commitment, is that not it?
Roland, I've been on the media since 2006.
Fantastic, man.
And I have looked at those stations that are owned by politicians. And if you go on a station that is owned by a politician and you say something that is ultra-virus to what they want you to say, look at how they come at you. When they open the phones, look at how they come at you. Just because we are a certain way aligned. Should it be so? It shouldn't be so. Number 2, not until and not unless we see politics as a service. If we continue to see it as places to make money, it creates problems. And for me, that's one of the biggest challenges we have with our politics. There are politicians today who have never worked before, came from university straight into politics, who are multimillionaires today.
Say that again.
There are politicians today who have never worked before, came straight from university into politics, who are millionaires today. They've been in politics all through. How do you expect the ordinary man that you're talking about to see such a thing? Not until we see politics as a service. You come in, give your service, and leave. Not until we see it as that. These challenges that we face would continue. The partisanship that we have has got to do with what do I get from the position I've been given. That partisanship. What do I... Look, who said it? Somebody said, when they are vetting people who have been appointed, look at the people behind them. The people who come and sit behind them, look at them.
The chiefs.
Yeah, all the family people.
The church.
What the idea Befie, your man, Minister of Finance, what the idea Befie, that mentality has to change. Because you're given a position to what? To build the nation that would help everybody. And not unless we can break that, it will continue to create challenges and problems for us. Kakra Samoa. He was the one who sent the, what do you call it? Yes, tolerance is key. If you go to the British Parliament and you see a backbencher attacking their front bench, and it happens because the backbencher, the interest of the backbencher are the constituents. And they even mention some of the constituents' names about certain things that the front bench could have done. But it doesn't, because they've attacked the front bench, it doesn't make the front bench, oppose what they are saying. They take it in good stead and try and rectify it. Does that happen here? How many times do you see our backbench in Parliament even getting up to speak? How many times? And so the whole political architecture, as a nation, we've got to sit down. Everybody sit down and say, this has to change. And that change should transcend to the lowest people. The sad thing is that a lot of our citizens do not understand what it means by politics. And a lot of our people seem to want to do Choboy politics all the time. But Choboy politics creates problems. We have NCCE, we have other institutions. They need to take this particular issue up and start, and not even only people in the constituencies and in the polling stations, but classroom.
Yeah.
That's where you start from.
Mani, I should ask you, you are a CPP and PNC is your friend?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I have always said, the CPP as a party cannot do it alone. And I don't even look at it as the CPP. I look at it as the Nkrumah's groups. And if the Nkrumah's groups cannot come together as one, the CPP is wasting its time.
Right. All right. Amoda Hamidu says, how can a man of the stature of the COP allow himself to be recorded and later say the tape is doctored? Who will believe this? The security of this country has to be taken seriously. Okay, and then also there's this one says, can you remind Mr. Makuchum about the capacity to effect what the change of IGP Dampare is? Some allege that coup plotters are being prosecuted in court for holding discussions purported to overthrow government. And now one of them is the Dr. McPalm and others. The state failed to play to the hearing of Ghanaians, the alleged coup plotters meetings, yet they are in court. Is he there talking about people who don't have the capacity to execute what is captured on tape? All right. So now let's move on to the next one. Myself, I'm trying to find
just before we move on,
I think it's the
let me ask a
diction.
question. Let me ask you, please. Let me ask a question. The IGP position, is it always lobbied for?
The man makes it look like it's
Exactly.
lobbied for. Yeah.
When
It has to be by merit.
When he said that, I was wondering,
No, but
is it because of that there's bad blood?
But Roland,
I don't see
I
it.
told you that he has a certain psyche of the office, and which is fueled by a certain partisanship.
All
And
right.
for him to, I mean, it tells you the kind of IG he would probably have been. You go to a lame duck politician like Buri Nabu, because what's Buri Nabu's power now? If you had even gone to a party chair or general secretary, we can understand. Right.
He's an influencer.
But you could see that Bugri himself, you listen to the tape carefully, was using it to relaunch his own career back into the MPP when he was praising Baumia and making it look like it's a support for Baumia. He knows the tricks
So
are there.
everybody has interest.
Everybody has interest in that
All right.
tape. It's a very interesting one.
On the other side of the news, we also had a court directing the Office of the Special Prosecutor to defreeze the Ghana Shade accounts of Madam Cecilia Dapa, the former sanitation minister. Now, let's put that on the screen and then we'll get to it. But also we do know that it has raised questions among key civil society individuals and even members of the public whether the special prosecutor is independent after all, etc. But we also do know that, well, when somebody has been accused, you also have to give an opportunity, or the uterem partem, as they call it in Latin and law. What do you make of the responses to the court decision yesterday?
Responses from who?
Generally the public, that it shows that the special prosecutor is not powerful after all, and all that. Even though, of course, the other side of the argument is that until you are proven guilty, you are innocent.
Well, I mean, I think that every constitution has inbuilt checks and balances. What we have is no different. You know, sometimes I always say that we kind of almost pick and choose what is expedient for us when we want to discuss this whole concept of democracy.
Is that the case?
Because we have institutions. The special prosecutor itself is an act of the Constitution. It's an act that has legal backing. was promulgated in Parliament. They have the responsibilities and regulations and all that they are supposed to be bound by. And then you have your Attorney General, you have your judiciary, and you have all the systems in place to do the checks and balances. And then you have a citizen of a country that has been accused of one thing or the other. It could be anybody. It doesn't necessarily even have to be a public official, right? So you go through the process, and then the process actually indicates that at this point, what you're seeking to do is not constitutional, or you don't have the right to do that at that particular moment, right? And I think that we should be applauding ourselves as a country to even have that semblance of a structure and a judicial process that you can follow. You know, sometimes when persons are accused of doing stuff, there's the whole concept of even the court of public opinion and prosecution, where it's, oh, she's guilty, take the money. You understand what I'm saying? But if you take the public official out of the equation and it's just an ordinary individual, a citizen, or a random person walking around doing their business, and they are subjected to that, you would find that then the commentary becomes totally different. It means that we are picking and choosing how we apply these processes. I believe that if the OSP also believes that whatever the High Court has said is not, they don't agree, they are in disagreement, the process can be taken to the next stage. The next stage is go to seek a higher court, an appeal court, isn't it? Can go all the way to the Supreme Court. Even when you go to the Supreme Court, you can actually go and seek a review, right? So I feel that if you're a Democrat and you're a consummate Democrat, I like these things. It's interesting for me as a country in sub-Saharan Africa.
So you're saying these are just institutions at work?
Yes, because there's no other way, right? In times past, we lived in this country where persons have had 5,000 Ghana cedis and 50 cedis, whatever, and they've been tied on the stake and shot and killed in this country. It's happened before. You understand what I'm saying? So for me, if we want to go by the democratic route, the tenets of democracy, we have to be a bit patient with some of these things. We can't live in a democratic environment and have expectations of things that are supposed to be arbitrary without recourse to the law, right? So the OSP has done what it thinks that it deems fit. The woman also has a right to seek to legal representation. She's done, so the process is going to
redress.
And redress. So yes, let's see how it plays out. But as far as I'm concerned, that's our democracy that is working, and there's certain things that we can commend ourselves about.
I have a soundbite of Martin Pebu. I want us to take it, and then we can put it into it. So Martin Pebu, we all know him, a non-legal practitioner. Let's take a soundbite on this matter.
The one on the seizure, I expected OSP, that's the 590,000 and the 2.7 million that was found in Madame Dafar's house, where it said that I expected the judge to be able to scale the procedural lapses of the OSP and to confirm that seizure so that those assets will remain seized whilst investigations go on. And then, as for the freezing of the accounts, yeah, the judge is spot on. The OSP didn't expect to get the order when the details of the account have not been provided, how much was involved. So I was hoping, you know, sometimes judges will be sympathetic to the prosecution. I knew that, okay, even if Mr. Ejabin's lawyers in court had mentioned the figures involved, then he would say, look, I'm adjourning this case so that you file a supplementary affidavit to annex the statement. He's making the whole thing look like, yes, it's true that this thing is a staged thing. I mean, it's basic, it's elementary. You want a court to freeze an account and you are hiding the bank statement, the information you got. How? I've been supporting him 150%, but this thing is beginning to shake my confidence in his work. He shouldn't do that, and we will believe those conspiracy theories that this thing is just a staged thing. How can you go to court without the evidence?
Does it raise questions about what is supposed and expected of the OSP, or is just the structures of the institutions of state working?
Well, I mean, I'm not on the tangent of the institutions of state working, because if that was to be the case, this is a politically exposed person. We're not talking about, an individual who is not politically exposed. And when you are politically exposed, you tend to have a certain sort of currency surrounding you, and there is high-level public interest in this. Now, the fundamental question to ask here is that when she was appointed as minister, and a test of the institutions, if that's anything to go by, or if that litmus test would pass, when she was appointed as a minister for sanitation, did she sign or fill an asset declaration form? If she did, I think that this is primary evidence, basic, elementary, that anyone would have to refer to if you were to look into this. Now, the sums we're talking about is 800 plus. Is an 800 plus million. You can correct me if I'm wrong in your production, because a lot of figures have been put out there. So we are unable. Yeah, we are unable to tell.
There's no sum 800 million put out.
So well, we read that
so
snippets.
So
that is where I'm,
the ones currently that have been garnished.
Yeah.
We're talking about found in the house,
Yes.
and then also in the account. We're told that the monies that run through the accounts up to balance brought forward.
Yes.
The sum was in excess 5 million. But we're talking about
5 million what, dollars or Ghana cedis?
Yeah, $5 million. But we're talking the current sum of 590,000
dollars.
Yes.
Yeah. So
and then of course there are cedis.
Yeah. So these are all very interesting perspectives. So a minister, a politically exposed person, the compliance department of the said bank that receives this money should be answering some questions as well, because this is a politically exposed person, right? Such sums, we know how much the person earns. What sort of business is this person also involved in? So these are
even the Bank of Ghana has directives as to how much can be accepted as deposits.
Right, but so Roland, I cast my mind back, and again, you realize our politics when you talk, right? People think it's partisanship, or I remember in the run-up to the 2016 election when Ken Ofori-Atta was the chair of the finance committee of the NPP, went to take a loan from Prudential Bank. Right, and we all question, or we raise questions about how that sort of a facility could be granted for an individual for such a purpose. He came into office, a few months down the line, that loan was serviced. Again, he became politically exposed, but questions were not asked. We didn't see regulatory institutions like Central Bank coming in to ask. So these things manifest themselves and harden the political system, and that is what is reflective of what is happening. And ever since the Cecilia Dapaah issue emerged, there have been cases of charade, right? Even quasi-media and mainstream media with people doing screen touch analysis, with lies being thrown all over the place and making the issue murkier. The Office of the Special Prosecutor itself, as an independent office, did not help itself by, releasing statements and counter statements about what the actual sums were. And you go to court and you are statute barred. So we ask ourselves, where were you looking? And in the statement that they were producing to defend their position or to state their position to the public, they'll state, okay, well, these were the days that were supposed to be done. There's a statute we are quoting. But you just don't release a vanilla statement, right, stating that, okay, we went here and the judge said this and we disagree, right? It feeds into the rumor mongering around the public and the conspiracy theories.
And at a certain stage.
At a certain stage. And when that happens, it kills the confidence of the office, it derails its independence, and then it makes nonsense of our processes and state institutions and what have you. And I think that is what is manifesting. If the judge is sitting there, you bring your evidence. So, but for me as an individual, reading this makes me feel like, okay, well, is there even a conspiracy between the AG and the OSP trying to, set this woman free? Because we've seen other cases, the expediency with which they've gone to, right? An MP who denounced his citizenship got in because of COVID issues and all of that couldn't be factored into policy reasons, were gone after, and even was being told that every day he has to be in court. Right? And this is how we are dealing with this issue of a politically exposed person. Look at the sums of monies that have been mentioned. Juxtapose that to the books allowances that go to our researchers in our universities. Juxtapose that to school feeding, the watery foods that we are serving people and the budgets that go. Sanitation budget, her own ministry's budget is one of the most poorly malnourished ministries we have. And we have such sums with her. Nobody is explaining for it, and we are still going to court and having the AGs. I think that more ought to be done about this. Either than that, it'll kill the morale of the public, and it'll embolden people to do this the more. Don't forget, someone was fired and went home for just thinking that I want to make 1 million.
Victoria Hammer.
Yes.
Is there confidence fatigue developing among the Ghanaian people, the public? Lajantua.
If you look at the letter that Honorable Cecilia Dapa's lawyers wrote to Joy FM, it tends to it tends to sit in with the verdict that the court gave. And forgive me, I haven't read the verdict fully. But I think one thing that the court sidestepped was the act of the OSP. So let me read.
Which part of the act are you reading?
The first bit. And I quote, "An act to establish the office of the special prosecutor as a specialized agency to investigate specific cases of alleged or suspected corruption and corruption-related offenses involving public officers and politically exposed persons in the performance of their functions, as well as persons in the private sector involved in the commission of alleged or suspected corruption and corruption-related offenses. Prosecute these offenses on the authority of the Attorney General and provide for related matters." For me, the question is on the process and procedure that the OSP used to do its work. What does this say? The OSP has the right to investigate politically exposed people. Is Cecilia Dapa politically exposed? Yes. That money that they found, where did it come from? If for anything at all, I expected the court to ask, the figures that you brought, can you authenticate it?
With documentation.
With documentation and all that. Because there is a suspected corruption which the OSP has the right to investigate.
Law.
He is the gentleman who investigates corruption. And the court should have taken that into consideration before giving the verdict it gave. And so, what does that make? And what kind of mindset does it give the people that perhaps the court is in cahoots with individuals, which is a wrong thing to think. But if certain things were not put in place step by step before such a verdict was given, then you're opening yourself up to that kind of ridicule. You're opening yourself up to that kind of ridicule. So, what's the next step for the OSP?
So to go.
There has to be a next step. And probably he's got to sit with the Attorney General. Yes, but is he not under the Attorney General?
He says he's independent.
Is he not under the Attorney General? Does he not take instructions from the Attorney General?
No.
Something has to be cured, because the people do not believe that you find X quantum of money in a politically exposed person's house and you say what? Send it back to them within 7 days? Is that what you say? Because definitely, if Eric here, he's chairman of, let's say, TOR, or he's MD of TOR, and we know where TOR is today, and the workers in TOR suspect that he's being corrupt, and one fine dawn morning he's waking up and the next thing he sees, they are in his house, the national security are in his house, they search his house, and they tell him, we are coming to search you because we suspect that you have been corrupt, and they find 500 and whatever thousand dollars in his house. Will they not question it? Will they not point the finger out? So I think, for me, as I said, the judgment didn't fall in line with the OSP's act.
Okay.
And really, in order for people to gain confidence in our judiciary, something has to be done about it.
All right.
Roland,
I just wanted also
Roland,
to avert our
listen,
minds
listen.
to Section 38 of the Special Prosecutor Act, and it says freezing of properties. Where the SP considers that freezing of property is necessary, it goes on and on. In 2, that's 38.2. The special shall within 14 days after the freezing of property apply to the court for confirmation of the freezing. So if you don't present the further and better particulars to the court, then of course the freezing action.
But did they apply? Did they apply for it?
Yeah, they did.
We said special
So,
prosecutor.
but the court has to be convinced.
No, we said special prosecutor. That designation gives you special powers.
Yes.
And makes you different.
So you're saying the
Right?
commitment
So
should be
no,
there.
what I'm, yeah. So what, even the court, right, as a measure of policy, should be cognizant of the fact that this is a special prosecutor before me.
And there's an
where?
act that covers it.
No, but
I've enjoyed today's discussion.
That's not the point. It's not.
I beg to differ.
Right.
I beg to differ.
No, then why are we creating the office? Is it a duplicity?
The act, can I borrow your thing? The
This
act,
is a constitution.
no, the one that you read, the act,
Yeah.
right, says
I'll
that
give it to you.
the
Which act? This one. It's
The
here.
special prosecutor.
So he read the preamble,
The preamble,
to the
yes.
section.
Okay.
So is there.
Okay, so it
So,
says that
an
an
act.
act, so I'll just paraphrase it. And that I'll start from here. To corruption-related offenses involving public officers and politically exposed persons in the performance of their function,
Yes.
as well as persons in the private sector involved in the commission of alleged or suspected corruption and
Alleged and
corruption-related
suspected.
offenses. Prosecute these offenses on the authority of the Attorney General and provide for related matters on the authority of the Attorney General.
No, we're
in
not-
any case,
no, we're not doubting that.
But in any case,
Right.
in any case, when you go to court or there's a verdict from a court and it doesn't go according to what either public perception is or what you call popular opinion is, it does not mean that the court has done anything wrong, because the court is there, the judge is there to interpret.
Right.
Because I'm not a lawyer. I don't
Eric,
even
I'm not
I don't want to even go
Thank you
into
very much.
the legalities
Lajantua,
of
thank you
this
very much.
thing. That's
Dr.
the
Khalid,
Constitution.
a great friend of mine is loving you this morning. Actually, many people are loving you. So Dr. Sharif Khalid, be coming very often when you have the time.
I will.
I think it's because you are busy or you are not assigned. Which one?
Well, I think I do a lot of
Both. You're a very busy man. So Isaac Creponi says, I love this man. And then also Musa Abaton say, I must be frank with you, we're losing confidence in the judiciary. Look, we are not robots, and we know the legal gymnastics, and so that's a public perception again created there. We'll do cash out very soon. Again, we encourage you. So the short code is *439#. Kizito from Tema, isn't it surprising seeing this coming from the High Court? The president has marred the judiciary, and COPA Alex Mensah has shown how he can be wicked towards others. All right. We also have this one from Eric from Ashalibochi. We want democracy, but politicians are hiding behind democracy and robbing off the nation. God have mercy. Eric from Ashalibochi. Seidu Salaga, good morning to you, Seidu. I'm gripped with so much fear listening to COP Alex Mensah. From his face and posture, I see Ayawaso times 10 in 2024 in favor of the MPP if he becomes IGP. Well, he's retiring as well. And so we have a couple of them as well. Engineer Samuel. Now let's do cash out. So we encourage you. The short code is *439#. Let's do the draw. 3, 2, 1. Let's go, Brenda. 3, 2, 1. The first winner is the one with the number 02334 023354071. First winner. Let's do the second one. Cash out. All of you be cashing out, or you don't like cashing out. Now let's do the second draw.
Eric is the businessman, so he will lead the pack.
So cash out. Let's cash out, please. Cash out. So we have 0549771 as the winner. Engineer Asama, good morning to you. Thank you for joining us for this discussion. Sheikh Napari, good morning to you as well. We're grateful. And this one is from Fokafui. Says, does the ECOWAS and AU take time to interact with people living in Niger, Burkina Faso, and all other countries that coups are happening? Can they advise Togo president to do the needful? Paul Biya, how far? And then we have a couple more. This one is from Benghazi. It is true, government wants to remove the current IGP, Dampare, but it won't work because we have seen the devil mentality behind the plan. Is it true? Is it true? Is it a question, rhetoric? Is it true? Okay, this one is from Kalio Manwa. What's the difference between what the officer who wants the IGP change and machinations to Chenga? If this was an NDC man in military uniform saying what the commissioner said, what do you think would have happened in this country? We need to be transparent for each other, all right? Aaron Brasu also sends this message. He says, I'm shocked by what the COP was saying yesterday. How can you openly reveal how much you hate your boss on national television? This is a no, 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 all right? The return of the money to Cecilia Dapa is no news. Remember the PPA issue, and this from Tikofi. We have the winner on Cash Out. It's a Friday. Charlie, good morning to you. Good morning. Good morning.
Yeah.
How are you? Please, you are the winner of our first draw for Cash Out on TV3, TV3 New Day.
Okay. So let me check, then I'll call you back.
You want to do what?
I want to check it. You said 1,000.
1,000. So congratulations. What's your name?
My name is Vincent Atu.
DJ Ato.
Vincent Atu.
DJ Ato. Okay, where are you talking from?
I'm talking from Greater Estate.
Greater. Teshi.
Greater Estate.
Greater Estate.
Okay, Teshi. Greater Estate. Teshi. Philip Aboche in Keta says, in fact, Cecilia Dapa's case is problematic. Ghanaians are not surprised with this case. They clear... Okay, so that's okay. This is a clear case of clearing agents. Well noted. We're taking a break. Thank you all for coming. I hope you enjoy your weekend.
Thank you so much.
Also, those of you joining us on our stream, we're grateful. Money, need money. You're from the Born to Defend group. You say you are from the new group called Born with Latif.
What are they defending?